chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get back. Big on the stairs, what they said part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top dog, I'm cool on the chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get back.
Keep it real with you, I've been in the field in position. Look, hey, I've been trail, you can tell by how I feel when you with me. Look, wave, tell me, can you slide for a real one?
Slide for me, slide for me.
Can you slide for a real one?
Can you slide for me, slide for me?
Can you slide for a real one? Can you slide for a real one?
Niggas can't tell me nothing. I'm flexing, stunting. Eating all my veggies in my pocket, half an onion. And that pack smell like a Funyun. Trump be beating, shit be humming. You can hear me around the corner before you ever see me coming. And they know just how we coming. Pants drumming. She gon' bust it open way before I finish thumbing. I can put you on some paper, proper play and teach you something. Got my stones on Himalaya, know I'm out your sucker ducking. Ain't no need for that discussion, niggas bluffing with the game. About to build a couple million, came with nothing but my name. I'ma twist it, flip it, stick it like a bop it. Tell them stop it, all them haters out of pocket. Let me plug it like a socket, baby. Big on the stairs, what they said part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top dog, I'm cool on the chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get back. Big on the stairs, what they said part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top dog, I'm cool on the chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get back.
Wave, tell me, can you slide for a real one?
Slide for me, slide for me.
Can you slide for a real one?
Can you slide for me, slide for me?
Can you slide for a real one? Can you slide for
Baby,
a
say
real
I make
one?
her nervous.
Maybe cause I'm real nigga on the surface. Maybe cause I'm 10 down where the turf is. Don't get lost in those facades on the guys. You know ain't nobody perfect. I just put the work in, I know what my worth is. I'm living lavish, I'm flossing, bossing a bagging up cash off the passion. Out here with my niggas, AV to the casket. We reckless, stay in your lane. I'm on gas till somebody cut the brakes. Cutting off these haters in the heads of the snakes. You're spinning the plan, bitch, you catching on late. She just sent the emoji, said she wetter than a lake. So I better not flake, take a break, say word. Hit me when you through with that shit, then we can shift again. My schedule been clear. These niggas see me, they mad like I'm one of their peers. I put that on Sita, so I'm sure it's abundantly clear. I'm hella big on the said what I said shit. Eyes low off the legal in the red whip. With the leg room and the roof gone. Man, I came a long way from them deals off the Groupon, right?
Big on the stairs, what they said part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top dog, I'm cool on the chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get back. Big on the stairs, what they said part. So I skip straight ahead to the bread part. Top dog, I'm cool on the chit chat. Fuck with the kid, know I got to get back.
Keep it real with you, I've been in the field in position. Yeah, yeah. I've been trail, you can tell by how I feel when you with me. Yeah. Tell me, can you slide for me? Can you slide for it one? Yeah, yeah. Tell me, can you slide for style is shameless. Necklace on me decorated. All this got me feeling jaded. Hold up, I'll be waiting. Bad thing on my radar. Told me that I'm in a playlist. Flower bomb, she a lotus. I be thinking that I'm famous. I remember when I prayed for this. No sleep, cause I'm anxious. All this shit for entertainment. Crazy thinking that it's day one. All this spinach for the taking. Yeah. Hold it down for the nameless. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been on a grind, yeah. Like I'm really on the rails. Like my life is on the line, yeah. I've been getting mines in. I've been on a you. Nothing left to lose. Get into the bag, yeah. I've been on a you. I'm seeing how you move. Imagine all the things we get into. I need you to fuck with me all the way. I need it all, baby. Let me see you drop it. Make sure it's all the way down. I'ma keep it solid. If you hold me all the way down, and fuck with me all the way.
Evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It is one of the most anticipated rounds of this championship. Welcome to the Asphalt Kings, Autobahn Legends, as our drivers look to hit the track ahead in Montreal. My name is Adam Reid. We should be having James Otter alongside me. I'm sure that will happen, as soon as we potentially can. But first of all, let's get into proceedings, because it was a pretty hectic round last time at the fabled Blue Moon Bay Raceway. Some really spectacular racing. Christian Samet winning the first race ahead of David Mifsud. Daniel Malia coming home a close third. And look at the gap between first and second, 3/10 of a second. I had some Birmingham making up some good gains there, and also John Paul Vella putting himself into fifth. Jonathan Spiteri was in sixth. Denzel Adjis, Owen Kassar, Adrian Mercieka, and Clint Orland rounding out the top 10. Some really strong results. Of course, that was Christian Samet's first win of the season, and then of course his second podium. I had Birmingham. His very similar statistics there. Second podium of the season, first win for him, but he had a bit of a better clearance there to Daniel Malia. 5 seconds, and he stormed off into the distance to take a well-earned victory. And Malia second, Spiteri third, Samet in fourth, with Mifsud in fifth. Strong showing there from Mifsud all throughout the last 4 races that we've had at Watkins Glen and Blue Moon Bay. John Paul Vella will be in sixth, with Owen Kassar, Denzel Adjis, Marlon Spiteri, and Osbert Adam. So many battles took place at Blue Moon Bay, and I think it was just the nature of the circuit. The standings look like this. Daniel Malia will lead the standings as we head to the fabled Montreal streets. Christian Samet, David Mifsud, joint on second place on 54 points. This championship is still open to anybody's, with Ayrton Birmingham on 49 points. He's managed to jump up quite a bit. Spiteri there dropping down to 5th on 44 points, and he's got 10 in front of Denzel Adjis. Adjis, struggled a little bit for the majority of the season. We'll get into that in just a moment. John Paul Vella in P7 with Owen Cassar. Joel Falzon de Bono in P9 there with Adrian Merchieka making up another place ahead of Osbert Joedeb really struggling over the course of that race session, but he's had worse results where he didn't pick up a race in the second race at Watkins Glen, but he's managed to pick up a couple extras here and there. Marlon Spiteri, then Clint Orland and Jake Barbara are the ones that have to complete the standings. So looking ahead into this session, well, what can we expect? Because we've got Daniel Malia in a really, really good place, and so many drivers are going to be really opting for some fantastic results. Here is the circuit then, 4.3 kilometers in length, 14 turns. Well known globally for hosting the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. The circuit breaking ground in 1978 and has hosted so many incredible legends over the course of the years. And we are going to be using the Porsche 911 GT3 996 from 01, 350 brake horsepower from 2001. This is, as I said, the most anticipated round of the championship because we're on the fabled streets of Montreal. They're so famous. There's very limited overtaking opportunities around this circuit. So I think the drivers will really have their work cut out here, and especially in that Porsche, it's going to be a massive question mark to us how, or I should say myself as the sole commentator at the moment, how this is all going to kind of pan out at the moment, because that Porsche could, react in some different ways. The drivers have been just out there practicing now, and so they will look to just try and get whatever information they possibly can. But I think for myself in the commentary box, is going to be a very, very different time having to work out what's happening with the screen. So it will be really, really intriguing to see, what these have got to, in their hands to try and cope with tonight. So again, like we said, the championship order is so open. It's been absolutely brilliant. This championship has hosted 4 winners so far. So let's have a look at a hot lap of the circuit's Gilles Villeneuve. Of course, it curves to the right hand side to open up the corner. You got to try and get the car rotated in towards the first corner, in towards the second corner of Virage Senna. Then you're accelerating up towards turn number 3 and 4. It's a very, very quick chicane. Hard on the brakes. Get the car on towards those curbs there. A little bit of a snap at the rear. You don't want to be doing that too many times. Then you head through 5. It is completely flat. Down a gear we go. And then we're just going to be braking just off that 100-meter board. And then you've got to try and get your tyres on the curb. Try and get the power down here as exit on toward the back straight out of turn number 7. Now you're just going to be looking for the braking point, because you're now going under a bridge where your braking point maybe is completely blinded. So we're just going to brake before we go underneath the bridge. Get the car in, hump over the curb there, use all of the road and the asphalt that you have to your advantage, and then you'll power your way down on towards La Penga of turn number 10, the famous hairpin where we saw Robert Kubica have his nasty accident all the way back in 2007, rotating that car around. And now you're going on towards the long straight through 11 and on towards 12, the casino straight, the fate, of course, the Montreal Casino to your right. You've got the lake to the left that hosted the Olympics years ago. Now we're heading to the fabled Wall of Champions. Oh, so famous. So many champions have hit the wall, and then in towards the final chicane we go. You've got to be so careful not to cut those corners, because that is going to be an absolute game changer. We'll get onto where that penalty system is, but that is a lap of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and what a fantastic circuit it is. I'll take a break, but in meanwhile, a big thank you to our collaborators, Monsters Inc., Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and the Specialist. Thank you so much for being a part of this production by Velocity Esports Racing. I will see you in the bit after these adverts, but don't go away because we've got qualifying coming up for the Asphalt Kings Autobahn Legends. Into the practice session, and the driver's just finding. So we now enter this practice session where the drivers are just trying to work out the car and track combination. Of course, they know it is the circuit Gilles-Villeneuve here in Montreal, and then it is going to be going into the session. It does also look like we have James Otter in the commentary box, or not quite yet. We are, in fact, indeed into qualifying. So we'll have to see how it all pans out. Everyone's still pretty close at this moment in time, so they're just trying to work their way around the circuit. 10 minutes of this qualifying session, and of course everyone will be looking to try and get a good lap in for the first part of it. You're just trying to build up to ultimately those last couple of laps. So everyone's still in their building phase for now. And head their way down the long straight. Of course, there is your penalty zone. That is going to be where you're going to have to serve your slow down penalties at the end of this one. So, of course, you'll be dropping the speed, whatever happens. So if, when you pick up a penalty, you will go over that line. You'll then be automatically slammed on the brakes for either half a second, or even longer. Then we will find ourselves in a little bit of a... we'll find ourselves in a bit of a moment where you're going to have to really cut the momentum down. So that is going to be such an important part of this qualifying session to look out for. At the moment, it's Christian Sammers who leads the way ahead of Jonathan Spiteri. But of course, this is going to be a big part of this session. So I think if you're a driver at the moment, you're just going to have to try and work out, kind of how would you handle this car around the circuit. So, Sam and Spiteri have already gotten themselves up to speed for this moment in time. Daniel Malia now just exiting turn number 9 on this circuit. So already we've chopped off 3 minutes into the session. So already a third of this session so far. And then they'll head their way down the main straight. I've got a little bit of news for the stream. Unfortunately, we'll not have James Otter tonight. He's not feeling the best. So, James, if you are watching, please get well. And we do have, in fact, have a break after this round, and then we'll head to the European circuits, we head to Goodwood. We head to the Goodwood Motor Circuit for probably one of the first times. I've never commentated on Goodwood. So this is going to be a complete change as we see changes in the timing screens. Christian Stammet still jumping up to the top there with a 1:45.647. Daniel Malia there in P2. He's looking at about just over a tenth up there, with Ayrton Birmingham sitting in third. There is the Haterade of Owen Cassar, bright red livery on that one. So that is going to be absolutely amazing to look at. Really intriguing. And it's got a brilliant sticker at the back there. I've noticed it's also Adrian Zoom there, not got a wing on the car. So I don't know if he's maybe picked the wrong car in this instance, or something's kind of happened in that case, but they look pretty dissimilar. We'll have to see if there needs to be a change made to that. Clint Orland allowing both those cars by, in fact. So we're just having a switch around, picking a driver to pick up with. But on towards some of the sectors around the circuit, you're seeing these three cars here. Let's say with these guys, this is Denzel Agius here. No, sorry, my apologies. This is Ayrton Birmingham Addicts heading down toward the casino straight here. He's just passing that penalty point there, and then on towards this final chicane. So everyone more at the the east side of the circuit now, just going down that long straight there. Spiteri's made an error here, so he's going to get a little bit of a tow here. Is Ayrton Birmingham. And I think he's a little bit down there. Did not get to improve that lap time. So it's still Sam up at the top end, but it's extended to 0.3 of a second. But now Daniel Malia has just gone ahead with a 1:45.426. A couple of more improvements. That's Owen Cassar going a little bit, going a little bit faster. But the pace now starts to pick up for these drivers, and then we'll find that they've really got to try and look after the tyres as well, because of course the tyres will have those heat phases, or heat kind of heat cycles. So what time do they kind of go on the attack? What point do they back off? It is a real kind of question and a balance there. And now we're seeing Ayrton Birmingham with a half-a-second penalty. So we'll see an example of how this will get applied as he heads now around Lepenga on round to turn 10. He'll accelerate and get up to a pretty high speed before, just wait for it, it's about to come through. There is the penalty zone. He'll be halfway down the straight and then auto slam on the brakes. It didn't cost him too much there, but it will be more kind of apparent in the in terms of the race. Jonathan Spiteri jumping over the chicane there of 13 and 14. Of course, 14 corners in this circuit, of course, going in the clockwise direction. So more kind of work there for the front left tyre. So that'll be the one kind of keep an eye out for. But we did see at Blue Moon Bay that the tyres weren't really too much of a threat here, but remember, this is a completely different car to what we've had the last two times. So will it pay to be a factor in this one with the Porsche 911s? Christian Stammet has just gone fastest of anybody in the first sector. He's still got to try and find 0.07 of a second if he wants to go clear of Daniel Malia, just using every little extra inch of the circuit, slicing the car through the grass as well. Hopefully he's not going to be picking that too much, using kind of the a little bit of inspiration from Rexy there, and he's purpled in the second sector as well by over 2 3/4 of a second. That is a big margin to have in a spec series such as this. So Stammet, my apologies, can find an opening to go just that extra little bit faster, he may as well just go and nab pole position. Skipping through the chicane, riding the curve on the right hand side, getting right up to the wall of champions, and he is short lining that line. Is he going to go any faster? It's a 1:44.886. That takes into pole position by over half a second. The track is really starting to get up to grips now. Spiteri still sitting in, it's gone into second there. Jonathan Spiteri's improved. Daniel Malley has improved. He's now sitting 3/10 behind Christian Samet after everything. That's going to be pretty big there in terms of this qualifying session. What about David Mifsud? He's been pretty quiet in this one. We haven't seen much of him during this qualifying session, still languishing down around about the top 6, but the rear is just not quite cooperating, and leave a little bit of green paint for good measure on the outside there of turn number 4. It's Birmingham heading down towards the turns 8 and 9 chicane. Let's actually stay here with Ayrton Birmingham to see how he does. Down the gears, you can see the H pattern shifter really at work. The car sliding away, trying to get away with him. And we now hit the 10-minute mark. Qualifying is done and dusted. We've got these final laps to go, and it looks like it will be potentially Daniel Vella to try and go first here. But again, like I said, stay with Ayrton Birmingham as he now heads his way down. He's 9/10 of a second, almost a second off Christian Samet here. So if he can find anything spectacular in this last sector, Ayrton Birmingham could find himself potentially on the front row of the grid. He's sitting on the second row at the moment. May not be the most amazing places to be, but over the timing line, these will be the final laps. Will we see an improvement from the car ahead? No, we won't. Will we see an improvement here from Ayrton Birmingham? He does improve, but it's only by 0.2 of a second. It doesn't take him up further by much. And then we got Daniel Mallier, who goes P2 there. Slow down for what seems to be Daniel Mifsud. And then we got Joel Falzon de Bono, who's been a little bit of a struggler in this championship. He's really kind of struggled, but we look now to John Paul Vella, Osbert Schweder from 8th place. Can he do any damage to the drivers in front? No, he can't. John Paul Vella can't improve. What about Joel Falzon de Bono, who will find himself on the 3rd row of the grid at best? Can he improve that by any chance? It doesn't look like so. Down by 0.7 of a second, and that will pretty much wrap up qualifying unless we can find a massive improvement. No, Clint Orland, I believe that was, improving right at the death, but only by a small margin. So there is your grid on the right hand side. Christian Samet will be on pole, followed by Daniel Mallier with Jonathan Spiteri. He'll be on the 3rd row of the grid. Ayrton Birmingham will sit in P4. Then we'll find David Mifsud alongside Joel Falzon de Bono. What a lineup that could potentially be. John Paul Vella alongside Osbert Schweder on the next row of the grid. Then we find row 5 being Owen Kissar and Adrian Zoom. Clint Orland will round off the grid on the 6th row of the grid, and unfortunately he will be alone on that one. We'll get onto the race in just a moment, but we'll see you right after this ad break. Don't go away. Back to Velocity Esports Racing and the Asphalt Kings Autobahn Legends. The Porsche 911s are about to head out onto the circuit. We start off with a 30-minute race, then we'll get a reset before then going for a reverse 20-minute race. This could have a recipe for absolutely spectacular racing. Really intrigued to see what we have got up for grabs. My name is Adam Reed. In the commentary box, I'm going to be your sole commentator for tonight's race, but we are just about to load into the lobby. So what can we expect? Well, we can expect, I think, a lot of overtaking, and already the drivers are about to head to the line. We go racing here at Montreal, and Christian Samet leads the field away. They head their way in towards turn number 1, barreling round at about 110 miles an hour before braking in towards the next sequence of corners. It's such a twisty section through Virage Senna and on towards the next sequence. Daniel Malia will be really looking for an overtaking opportunity in these early stages. The rear is already getting a little bit squiggly, especially there for Jonathan Spiteri. They head their way now, a bit wide there potentially from Christian Sam. So is he now fully connected with the road, or is he showing a little bit of signs of weakness in these early stages? Well, he'll have to try and get himself composed here. You know, you can't be fumbling in these early stages. Samet now in towards turn number 8. He's just having a look around. It is Samet from Vela, from Spiteri, and now we're just seeing throughout the midfield here. Joel Falzon de Bono holding on to 6th place, but I don't think that's going to be for long because John Paul Vela has streamed past him in the all-green Porsche, and they're heading in towards Le Pinglel. That is going to be a pretty tough chicane to get right, and now Joel Falzon de Bono has got a pretty good exit on the back of that one, so he'll be looking to try and retake that position that he lost a couple of laps ago. He's in the tow now in his Mobile 1 sponsored Porsche 911. He'll head his way in toward the into the Wall of Champions chicane, but he's going to look up the inside. It's a brave move from Joel Falzon de Bono. He makes the maneuver. He grabs the car on the side. I think also looks like Owen Kassar's going to try and make a move. Someone's off in the background there, but we'll focus on this battle for a moment because Owen Kassar has come from absolutely nowhere in towards turn number 1. Who's going to be better on the brakes? Falzon de Bono goes around the outside, and Kassar is just going to have to live to fight another day. He does, and now John Paul Vela is going to come back at him. Superb battle for 6th place in these early stages, but John Paul Vela looking all over the place. They're bumping, they're barging, they're doing everything in those seconds of the corner. Look at Osbert Schwed up in the background saying, I want to get past here, but I just can't seem to do it because you guys are just having a little ding-dong of your own. So he needs to try and be a little bit more creative, a little bit more better in his racing IQ to see if he can find a way through, and already has pulled alongside Owen Kassar in the all-red Porsche. And now hard on the brakes underneath the bridge. So difficult to capture your braking point. Your eyes going to have to be really sharp here. And now we look for a battle for the lead because here comes Daniel Malia. He's gone down the inside of turn number 10 as he's opened the door here for Jonathan Spiteri to try and follow in through here. Plenty of podiums amongst this lot. They head their way now down towards Casino Straight. Again, Samer having a look all over the rear here of the Rothmans Porsche. He'll hit the brakes, but will he be brave enough? He won't. He might just set it up on the exit, but he's half sliding there, but so is Malia. It is a great exit, a better exit there from Samer. The rear were just complaining for absolutely everyone. We're now going to see 3 wide in towards turn number 1. It will be Ayrton Birmingham to take the place ultimately. The cleanest exit out of all the 4 drivers, and Daniel Mifsud, I apologize, getting in on the action. Really high stakes up in the early stages of this first opening race here at Montreal. We said this was highly anticipated, and already it's only been 5 minutes, but it's proving to be one of the more wild races we've had. Very similar in terms of pacing to what we had at Blue Moon Bay. The drivers will head their way down that long back straight bus just past the lake on the island of the Ile Notre Dame. Jonathan Spiteri wanting to have a look there at Daniel Malia. And side by side for the battle for the lead here, Ayrton Birmingham will take the lead of the race for the first time in this race. But Sam might have a reply here. Somebody who does have a reply is Spiteri, and he's going to be handed a half a second penalty, so we'll drop from third down to fifth here. So look at Daniel Malia there in the background. He is going to be sitting back here and absolutely loving it. Sorry, my apology, missed it, because he's sitting in fifth here. He's a little bit off the back of everyone else here. Sam is now going to try and go to the outside by Ayrton Birmingham says, absolutely no, you don't. You're not having it that easy. Hopping, then skipping and jumping the way over the chicane into the wall goes Ayrton Birmingham, slowing up the progress of himself and Sam. So this could be a big opportunity for Daniel Malia to try and fit a way through. He's gone past one. Look at this with the bigger momentum. It's Spiteri, contact from behind, and the pressure is just mounting on the lot of them. Such fast-paced driving. Looks like Mifsud is leaning on the side of Spiteri. Salmon has been dumped from second down to fifth. Sliding off the exit of turn number 4 there was Jonathan Spiteri. And Samet will have to think, how can he get through? Meanwhile, John Paul Vella could be entering the fray. He is 3 seconds behind the next leading car. Well, the next car ahead of him, that being, the former pole sitter, Christian Samet. There you can see Sam off, and that's speaking of off, that's going to be Daniel Malia. It seems like he's gone off the road in his Rothmans Porsche. He's going to allow the other driver to go past. He doesn't want to give an advantage and have to give out a slowdown here, so he just handed a couple of plates over. Samus up the inside of David Mifsud, and now Joel Falzon de Bono will sorry, that's John Paul Vella, my apology. He'll be looking and thinking, what is going on here? This is a battle I want to get into, and hopefully he will find that invite in his mailbox, and he'll be able to get involved in this in a couple of minutes' time. Spiteri looking for the opening. Will he find that golden gate to drive on through towards the race lead here? But it's been a well-managed race by a lot of these drivers at the moment. Ayrton Birmingham heading in towards that first corner. He seems a little bit wide, a little bit twitchy there from Spiteri, but they're going to close back up once again, because these two look like they're ready to go into a battle, unless Jonathan Spiteri realizes the bigger picture here and he wants to try and maybe work with Ayrton Birmingham to try and maybe etch a gap here. But that's not looked like what is happening on your screens at the moment. It looks like they're all over the place, and I think a wide moment there from Sam has now allowed David Mifsud to try and slot in a gap there. Contact between the white and the yellow and black car of Samet and the all green Porsche of David Mifsud. So on towards the 8 and 9 chicane. Oh, big hunk of sausage curb there for Mifsud, as he casts his way now down towards the Lepania chicane. And what did I tell you? John Paul Vella has found that invite in his mailbox, and he has sent it already on the Rothmans Porsche. Big move in the offering for the moment. And now next on his hit list is going to be David Mifsud. So he's taken down one David. He'll now go after the other. Still, Jonathan Spiteri now leading this one. So that's a new leader, in fact, in this one. But again, gets the chicane all wrong. So the Porsche is not loving the bumps at the minute. I just wonder if it's because, it's set up a little bit low compared to maybe what the other cars, because it doesn't look like at the front there's a lot of clearing. You can see the rake underneath the bottom of the rear of the car. So you know, when you go over some maybe curbs or bumps, the rake at the bottom and catch that and scrape. Whilst we don't really have sparks in the offering in Gran Turismo, I can assure you, if this was more kind of sense to real life, I'm sure there would be, you know, some absolute brilliant images of the sparks coming off some of these cars. Purple sector for Ayrton Birmingham. Really solid pace that he's carrying. I'd love to tell you sometimes, but at the moment, the only time I can really tell you is that John Paul Vella is currently running with the fastest lap of 148.242. So you want to be lapping around the 49s, and somebody who's been doing that really consistently, again, is John Paul Vella. He's put himself up into P5, but of course that's all been at the expense of the clear air. He's been so quick. Again, he's going to have to play the defensive role for probably the first time in this league battle. So the Maltese driver is going to probably try and get something, and that's a slowdown penalty. Big slowdown penalty here for Jonathan Spiteri. Where did he get that? Was that potentially the 8 and 9 chicane? Well, he's been very lucky here, because Ayrton Birmingham hasn't managed to go through on this part. But what's about the run down towards turn number 1? They brush up against the wall of champions, and they are starting to create a little bit of a buffer to Christian Sam. Pretty quick lap there, 145.732. So yeah, it does look like these laps, you know, are not too of course they didn't count for some reason, so I'm a little bit unsure onto why. Maybe I cut somewhere for Ayrton Birmingham, but yeah, we'll have to see how that all kind of pans out. Meanwhile, Jonathan Spiteri, 147.703. Christian Samet is still trying to bridge that gap. It's currently sitting at 1.4. It was a 1.6 a couple of moments ago, but again, it's just enlarging back to that 1.6, but you can see how much it's fluctuating between 1.4 and 1.7 it was at one stage. But again, it's just down to the battling that Spiteri and Ayrton Birmingham do. So I think if you're in the position of Ayrton Birmingham, you know, are you in the most ideal situation? Because you want Spiteri to be, you know, not exactly faultless, but you want him to be driving cleanly throughout probably the next, well, 15 minutes, and then you've got to just try and follow him, go after him, and try and get the move. Because if you start battling too hard with him, you're going to find yourself into the clutches of these drivers once again. Daniel Malia will now try and make a move here on John Paul Vella. John Paul Vella now in the all green car, maybe feeling a little bit of pressure, but how is he going to cope with it? Down towards the chicane they go. No major moves here. If you're going to make a move, it's not going to be down in towards this section. This is what I'm kind of talking about with the limited amount of overtake, because you can make it into one, you can maybe set one up into two. Three's not really an overtaking opportunity. Maybe turn 6 if, you know, there's a mistake, or if you're brave enough. You know, turn 8 can be an overtaking opportunity, but that's a wide moment there for David Mifsud. So a little bit unfortunate, but he's now fallen onto the back here with John Paul Vella. We'll go over some other overtaking opportunities like turn number 10, but that's about it. So there's probably about 3 main overtaking opportunities on this race circuit, and even then they do require maybe a little bit of a mistake in some of them. So it is a real driver circuit. You know, some drivers really love old school circuits, you know, your Brads Hatches, your Doningtons. This is kind of the hybrid. You know, you get an old school circuit, but it's, you know, on the streets in a way of Montreal. You know, there's so many debates you can have if this is a street, if it's a hybrid or whatever, because you can kind of call Melbourne a hybrid. But away from that, John Paul Vella going off the circuit, and half a second penalty to both Mifsud and John Paul Vella. That will be really detrimental, especially to John Paul Vella, who looked so strong with the pace that he was carrying, but he's going to have to now dip back into 6th for the first time since probably, lap 4 of this race. So Mifsud will slow down. John Paul Vella will relinquish 5th place to Malia, and the Rothmans car will be pretty happy that he's survived so far. But this is now just bringing them into a position where they're not going to be able to fight for a podium. They're going to be just, going about batting themselves. And whilst that's good and all for the kind of the viewership, it's not going to be really hunky-dory for them, because they're going to be wanting podiums to try and mount a championship challenge. Through turn 1 they go. It is Potsy or Mifsud from Malia from John Paul Vella. Meanwhile, Owen Cassart is in a little bit of no man's land. I thought the rear was trying to get away from him as well. John Falzon de Bono has had a little bit of a quiet race, but he's seems to be more of a qualifying type of driver, as far as we can tell. Managed to put that car onto the 6th row of the grid. My apologies, the 3rd row of the grid. We're qualified 6th. Let's kind of sort that out a little bit. But we've had a mistake there, and that's going to be Adrian Zoom off onto the inside barrier, and there will be damage to that car. It's only minor damage, but I think it's going to be more to the body of the race car. That does drop him down to P11 and outside of the top 10. Looking back towards the front, and it's the fight for 4th, 5th, 6th. Wide moment there from Mifsud. Mali will see the opening opportunity, but he won't go on through. And now we find Ayrton Birmingham. Slow down penalty for him, and that's going to drop him 2 seconds behind Jonathan Spiteri. My goodness me, that is going to be pretty harmful to him. I think we said Jonathan Spiteri was running in a really solid position. So we'll have to kind of see how this all really works out. Sam getting all sorts of slidey and dicey through that first corner. But he's really trying to push the limits of that race car, because he knows that there is, such a wide opportunity for him to go and grab second. For Spiteri, he's sitting 5th in the championship. He would love to have, this win here if he can keep it, because that will throw him into title contention. He does currently sit 13 points off the championship leader, Daniel Malia. Malia sitting all the way down in 5th. And Denzel Adjus, of course, not racing tonight. So that's why he's been very, very silent, because he's not turned up for tonight. So Denzel Adjus, who had a little bit of horror story in Blue Moon Bay for his standards, it's going to be such a shame to miss him, because I think this would have been maybe a combination, maybe a scenario that he would have absolutely thrived in. But I'm sure we know about how much the ACC championship kind of maybe haunted him. I think there at some point we do need to see Denzel Adjus championship at some stage. Back with this battle for P4 here, and David Mifsud is just holding up the championship leader here. And half a second penalty there being gifted, unfortunately, there to Malia. But he's not going to care too much, because he's now going to try and go on the attack. He's got to go so late on the brakes here. And he's actually managed to dispatch the green Porsche there of Malia, of Vella, Mifsud, my apologies. And if he can maybe get these two to start fighting away, that would be a huge positive, because, of course, he's still got those that 0.5 as a second slowdown penalty to try and get rid of, which you'll do down that long back straight. Down in towards turn number 10. It looks like we've also had a retirement in this race. I wonder if that was... it wasn't Adrian Zoom. Could have been maybe I think it might have been Marlon Spiteri potentially, unless I am very much wrong. And it was Clint Orland, my apologies. So the Lewis Hamilton fan, Clint Orland, unfortunately not kind of matching his idol in that sense of his success. Lewis Hamilton has been so successful around the circuit Gilles-Villeneuve, but I think Clint Orland, unfortunately, has not been able to kind of replicate that. Half a second penalty is going to be served here now by Daniel Malia. Malia. And that will be not too bad. You'll have to go defensive, though. Mifsud will be all over the rear of that Rothmans car. And these are some pretty important points, but he's sliding out of the corner, and he's going to really hurt that momentum. What about Jean-Paul Vella? Is he going to potentially get in this one? But no, it looks like he's a little bit too far back. And again, he's now going to get the push there. Will Mifsud go down the inside? He's stuck his nose, and there's contact between the two Dans. And that's going to be a little bit of a problem between the two of them. They're really going at it now. The jabs has turned into fist punches. And it started to get a little bit more kind of fiery as this race goes on. Speaking of this race, we're into the final 10 minutes. Now, this is a big old tussle that could be pretty crucial. This is Ayrton Birmingham up against Christian Samet. Samet, who currently now sits 3 points behind Daniel Malia in the championship. Remember, the points system is kind of it's basically get all the results from the first race, get the results from race 2, combine them, who had the most points in our system, and they will be declared the championship points in allocation. So, I don't want to go too much into that explanation because I could spend, the rest of the race talking about that and unfortunately miss the winner. So, basically, try and see who finishes up high in the first race. See if that name replicates in the second race, and they should be handed, some of the top points for this championship. And one of the drivers that's looking to do that is Christian Samet, but at the moment he's just kind of petering out his spark for this fight against Ayrton Birmingham, and I just wonder if it could potentially be maybe the tyres. He's just trying and maybe save them a little bit because he doesn't want to be using them, too much. He doesn't want to be using them and burning their cycle. But again, wide there for Ayrton Birmingham. A lot of drivers really struggling with that. They go too deep in towards turn number 1 and find themselves really tucked on that inside line for turn number 2. And if, your opposition behind you can get that correct, you've really opened a wide gate for the driver behind it. Is Samet now going to go for a move? No, because Ayrton Birmingham has placed that car right in the middle of the circuit and decided to brake on that line. Meanwhile, Spiteri is going to have no idea any of this is happening. 6 seconds up the road, and he is absolutely loving this. But Samet is going to be on the charge here. The Boxer inline 4 engines screaming down the straight, and I'm sure it's going to be exuberated by the kind of the denseness of the tunnel. But again, Ayrton Birmingham just staying in front for now. Will Samet try a audacious move into the hairpin of turn number 10? Knows your answer in that one. Ayrton Birmingham will just try and get the best exit. If he can get a good exit, that will be the best thing that he could possibly do on this lap with just over 6.5 minutes remaining. Samet is now just following in the wheel tracks of Ayrton Birmingham. Birmingham goes to cover off, go back to the racing line. Samet, I think, is going to be a little bit more fired up after this one because he knows that there's a big opportunity to go and take this race win, this second place here, I should say. It feels like a lead battle for the race win, but of course, Spiteri has decided to just go 6.5 seconds up the road, make that 7. In fact, so even further compared to what I actually meant to say. But this battle for second is absolutely not done and dusted. Keep an eye on the back there. Oh, actually, I say keep an eye on the back. Keep an eye on Christian Samet, because that has now allowed Ayrton Birmingham to drop the position. And that is going to be unfortunate for the all-blue car. Sam gets what he arguably deserves. And now Malia will go and try and chase down a podium. So whilst I was saying they're going to be a little bit out of reach for a podium, it is all conjured up within the last 5.5 minutes. So Spiteri leads 7 seconds. We'll stay with this gap for now. We'll stay with this battle for now because I had some Birmingham looking for the move here on Christian Samet. Late on the brakes. They're going to get that Porsche in towards the corner. They lean on each other, share paints. Now they'll go on toward the exit. Ayrton Birmingham going to be looking all over the back here. Will he dart to the right? Will he dart to the left? Fuel is now going to start really becoming light here. So 48 becoming the consistent number in all of this. If you can get it into the low to the mid 48, you're well within fast times. Wide moment there for Sammy. He cuts the chicane. Is he going to get a penalty for that one? It doesn't look like he's handed the place over to Ayrton Birmingham. Now we ride on board here with Daniel Malia, who will absolutely love to get involved in this little scrap here. He goes to the outside line. That becomes the inside. But Salmon, so wise to the attack of Daniel Malia, rotates the wheel like he's trying to get any form of grip that he possibly can. And it's been a strong wall that Christian Samet is going to be putting up. And it's going to require a bit of a wrecking ball to try and knock it down. But he'll get back up again. Birmingham still remaining in second here. His eyes going to be laser focused on that rear wing mirror as he heads their way down on towards this back straight towards the turns 8 and 9 chicane. Lovely revs from this boxer Porsche. And again, Samet sliding out the corners. I get the excitement of how he must be feeling, knowing there's a brilliant battle on here and a second place on offer. But you know, sometimes maybe calmness could maybe be the reward here. Just the car understeering, despite being at the despite having the rear in the middle of the at the front of the car and front wheel drive. He's still just understeering out of the hairpin, and he just couldn't get the throttle down. Meanwhile, Malia is potentially going to go for a move here, but he's just going to have to stick right behind that skeletal yellow and black Rexy inspired livery. I think right now Birmingham can breathe a sigh of relief, because seeing those two having a big old ding-dong battle in the background must give him a few pumps of the lungs to get air back into his system, and then be able to maybe come in with a bit of a refreshed mind when Ayrton Birmingham, I should say Christian Samet, decides to launch his next attack. Purple sectors still going on for Jonathan Spiteri. It's been a mighty fine, dominant fashioned kind of run there for Jonathan Spiteri, because he's just had no cars around him. Ever since maybe about the 10-minute mark, he's kind of just dashed off into the lead of the race and just kind of left us to whittle in the battle for second, third and fourth. I just wonder if Malia is now potentially going to go on the attack here for Samet. Samet through to the right, through to the left. They're going to get the rear out a little bit. And Malia wants that overtaking opportunity. He's going to be forced to the outside. Will the car rotate for Malia, I wonder? Hard on the anchors. And through they go. I think Samet managing to just shovel out Daniel Malia. Missed will be looking at this thinking maybe I can get involved, because there's not long left here. 1 minute 20 seconds, so this should realistically be the white flag lap. Oh my goodness me, I'm thinking iRacing at this rate, but it's still pretty much final lap, white flag lap. Let's not maybe go too American here, but it still applies in a way. But this is going to be a hectic last lap, because the drivers will know it. Everyone here in the field will sense it. So if you're Sam, do you know that you have the tyre life to do it? Well, Daniel Malia potentially try and maybe drop a shock overtake at some point during the circuit. Where is the least likely overtake on the racing circuit that it's merely possible? Maybe down in towards turn number 5 here, because Sam making a bit of a slide, making a bit of a hash out of the next corner. He's being forced there to the outside lines. He comes back across the racing lines, just try and confirm that position. Onto the exit he goes. He's more focused here, in fact, on Daniel Malia is Sam. This is a little bit worrying here, because he's got Ayrton Birmingham right in front of him for second, but he can't seem to do anything. Malia will use every single ounce of the racing surface that he's got to his for his chances. But it looks like now we'll switch to, well, we'll stay on this path, it looks like, because Ayrton Birmingham will still be in second, but it's just that lunge in towards the hairpin. But I can't see anything happening on this one. But for Jonathan Spiteri, where the sunset makes the best pictures, and it really is golden hour for Jonathan Spiteri. He'll head round the final chicane as he heads on the anchor for the final time. It's a 10-second plus to victory. Weeds across the line. Spiteri is your winner in Montreal, and that caps off the 30-minute feature race, and over the line they go. It's going to be Ayrton Birmingham. No, it's not. It's going to be Christian Salmon just at the line. Unbelievable. Who could have thought that would have happened half a lap ago? Ayrton Birmingham will take third at the line. An intense finish that was separated by 0.05 of a second. I'm sure our director is a little bit confused. He had to focus on the main kind of winner. But what on earth happened in that mid-battle? We might have to get the drivers to send some replays after the race, because that will go amazingly well that will go amazingly well in the Velocity Esports Racing HQ. But there is your winner, Jonathan Spiteri, and a fantastic win in dominant fashion. Christian Sammets will take P2 with Ayrton Birmingham narrowly missing on P3 here. He will start down in P9 for the reverse sprint race. Daniel Malia will be in P4, followed by Daniel Mifsud in P5. Then we find John Paul Vella. He had a lot of pace in the early stages, but just couldn't quite, make it come together. But, with the position that he's currently in, he's going to be a massive threat in that sprint race. He has had the second fastest lap out of anyone. Owen Kassar, strong finish from him, 7th for Ilmore. Then Joel Falzon de Bono, he finishes home in 8th. Then we find Osbert Zwereb in P9 with Adrian Zoom in P10. And unfortunately for Clint Auden, it's a retirement. So that is our sprint race, our feature race done for now. The 30 minutes are completed. They'll get slashed to 20 minutes. Then we'll go to our sprint race. But for now, we'll have a quick break before our second race, because I think everyone here at Velocity Esports Racing, we kind of needed that. We'll see you on the other side, but don't go away. We still got the sprint race for the Asphalt Kings Autobahn Legends. To Asphalt Kings Autobahn Legends series, we've had a very, very incredible first feature race here at the circuit Gilles-Villeneuve. We get set for our second race, the reverse sprint race. So much on offer because, we had such an entertaining first opening race there. So many battles kind of really fluctuating. We had that massive battle. Sorry, my mic was off. Welcome back to the Asphalt Kings Autobahn Legends series. What an incredible race we had. Starting off with the feature race. Really, really entertaining. So much kind of to talk about. The gaps really, really fluctuating amongst the entire field. There was kind of so many different battles happening. As I said, Jonathan Spiteri was kind of really, really lucky to get away amongst all of that. And you just kind of saw how close the battling was. Of course, we would love to know what happened between Christian Samet and, of course, it was I had some Birmingham right at the end. I'm guessing there was just that little mistake of the final chicane because, of course, that chicane is maybe made for high-speed cars. But these ones are little boxes. But here at the calendar, we've had Watkins Glen at the short course in the BMWs. Then we went to Blue Moon Blue Moon Bay Speedway on the infield A-Lout in the Audi TT Coupes. What a round that was! And then we arrived currently at the Porsche 911 GT3s. We now look to go on to second race, but we will have a week's break before we then head on to Goodwood and we round off in Sardinia. The second race here in Montreal, we go racing at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and it'll be Adrian Zoom to lead us away. The clouds dimming on the circuit, but that's not going to phase a lot of our drivers. They'll have that in the back of their minds because they've got a bigger picture to focus on. They've got to try and make their way up the field before they then cross the finish line and the checker flag. And already pressure being applied here to John Paul Vella. I said he was going to be a bit of a dark horse in these early stages. Last thing he wants to do is have unnecessary pressure on himself because, there's so many faster guys behind him, but there's also drivers he's faster than all around him. Now we head onto the back straight, and Osbert Schwetter has a chance here to lead here in Montreal, but where will he decide to take it? Down in towards the turn 8 and 9 chicane, bang onto the brakes you go. Downshift in your H pattern shifter, and then you're going to try and carry all the speed out of this corner on towards Le Panier. Turn 10's hairpin. The threat of rain is going to be very much evident. There goes Owen Kassar up the inside. Adrian zoom out a little bit wide there as well, so that could be pretty costly there. What's Autobahn going to do? So they now file their way out on towards turn number 12. Hit the little kink to the right, and they head their way just past the long canal on the left-hand side. They'll speed their way past the camera. Look at this, Ayrton Birmingham now trying to grab a place there of Daniel Malia, but in towards chicane is getting pretty tight, pretty close here, rubbing up against the wall, rubbing up against the tyre barrier as well, so really leaving off a little bit of pain. We've had it before in Velocity Esports racing races where we've had dark weather become rain, and it has been very kind of changeable, become very sudden as well. A lot of contact happening there between what seemed to be Ayrton Birmingham and David Mifsud in that little tussle there. I wonder if this is going to be around like Watkins Glen, where there's a lot happening there in front. A couple of cars in the barrier, but as I said, yeah, I wonder if it's going to be around like Watkins Glen where they car at the back just really struggled to make their way through. That's going to be John Paul Veller in the barriers. Oh, he's going to take out Owen Kassar. And very lucky that Kassar's kept himself on the track. There's still contact going on. Cars sliding absolutely everywhere. It is carnage in Montreal. Mayhem ensuing, and Samad drops to 8th there. So it's Adrian Zoom from Falzon De Bono, Birmingham, and slide round from De Bono. Oh, that's going to be awful there from the man who qualified in 6th place, took his best qualifying of this season. He now drops all the way to the back and now allows Daniel Malia to go and have an opportunity in these early stages of second. He'll carry David Mifsud with him, and Jonathan Spiteri, the winner from the first race. Could potentially Spiteri be the first driver potentially we've seen in any I think Velocity Esports racing series. Well, actually no, you won't be the first, but another driver to add their name to the list of drivers who have won double back-to-back races in one night. Samet up the inside of Owen Kassar. Makes a little bit of contact on the exit. That's not going to help his point of direction off that corner, and penalties being handed out. That one going to Ayrton Birmingham there in 5th place, so he's going to be pretty disgruntled with that, but he's got a whole lap to try and put himself in a position. So if he could just send that up the inside of Mifsud and Spiteri, he may find himself in a bit of a better gap. We'll have to see how that all kind of pans out, but somehow Adrian Zoom right up front here is still leading this one. He's putting in a purple sector, so fastest of anyone this time around, but he has very much been struggling over the last couple of the last races here. He's not one of our front runners. He's very much one of our back runners, so we'll have to see how his defensive skills come to play here. And there is a half a second penalty there for John Paul Veller, who I said was going to be a dark horse. Runs in 8th, half a second automatic slowdown. That's going to be pretty problematic here for his race. So he's now going to have to try and really work that and dig that extra little bit deeper, try and work his way through. His Ayrton Birmingham now swoops around the outside here of Mifsud, but Mifsud looks like he's got him back here. So Birmingham will now take the slowdown and fall into the clutches here of Samet. Samet's gap now currently just about 0.95 of a second. Watch that just tumble down a little bit by probably about maybe about 0.4 of a second by the time we get to the end of this straight. And it did end at about half a second, but again, Ayrton Birmingham was all sorts of wiggly, like a excited dog's tail out of that corner. But fast as that this time, going to Spiteri, 145.577. Slide there from Spiteri as he heads his way into the lead of the race. Adrian Zoom did not have a response to that, but Spiteri taking the lead in style. Daniel Malia would be probably looking at that thinking, what on earth have I just seen there? Adrian Zoom overtaken for the race lead. And still got 14 minutes left to go of this one. And the clouds now clear away from the circuit Gilles-Villeneuve, the circuit that was named after potentially one of the greatest drivers ever to never win a Formula One World Championship, a legend with Ferrari, who we lost, unfortunately, back in 1982 at Zolder. But the Porsche racing going on at this circuit has been nothing short of absolutely marvellous. Something to really relish at the moment. And a lunge there by Edson Birmingham. Desperate to get the position. He's going to be up into 4th place after that. Now they'll run their way down this long straight, the Casino Straight. And now Edson Birmingham now having to put up a little bit of a defense there. With Malia in behind, but Samet is going to be desperate to get a position here after his strong finish. And now with Daniel Malia taking 2nd place in the rankings, is he going to be able to go on the charge here of Spiteri? Wide moment there for Adrian Zoom. I think Edson Birmingham now going to get a cut back here and up into the podium places. There's a big old tussle between 3 cars there. It's Samet, it's Potsy, it's Ilmore off into the barrier. And that is going to be David Mistard. Race has really come undone for him. And there goes Jean-Paul Vella. Another list to the drivers of races that have just really come undone today. And that will be so unfortunate. Adrian Zoom now going to be paying a little bit of a roadblock here. So it's like a mobile chicane that he needs to they both need to get round, because they know each of them, Owen Cassar and Samet, they both have in the minds they're faster than Zoom himself. But this battle for first is now going to start raging up here. I think the kettle has been put on here and it's now going to start boiling. We're almost halfway into this race. Half a second penalty here for Owen Cassar. That will open the gap here for Christian Samet. Samet will be loving to see that on his screen. He will now have to try and go after Owen Cassar. So there is the slowdown. And will Samet potentially find some advantage in this? He'll try and off-put Cassar into that final chicane. And who will get the better exit? Well, to be honest, it actually looks like Cassar got the better exit off that one. But in towards turn number 1, Daniel Malia was getting pretty close there to the back of Jonathan Spiteri, and Spiteri having to go fairly defensive. He knows that he's there. He's looking in the wing mirrors. Probably looking at both mirrors on each side of his car. His defensive game is just really good. And so is Ayrton's, well, I was going to say Adrian Zooms, but unfortunately he's lost the rear, gone onto the grass and dropped 2 places there. So Samet's going to be allowed by. He's going to get a 0.5 second penalty, which will be applied down the Casino Straight. I think just tumble from bad to worse for Adrian Zoom. We still remain with 10 drivers because Clint Orland, unfortunately, pulling it into the garage, and it was not able to get out for this second race. Adrian Zoom just trying to pick up the pieces that he has dropped all on his own. But big move there from Spiteri. I wonder if he's been overtaken by Malia in an earlier stage of this one. But it looks like now the Rothmans livery is going to be leading for the first time in this race. Flashing away was Jonathan Spiteri to try and just distract Daniel Malia. You're just saying, no, don't look at your braking point. Don't look at where you're going. Focus on the flashes in the back there. That's what you want to be looking at instead of, exactly where you're going on the racetrack there. Spiteri trying to use all of the tactics that he possibly can against the Rothmans livery. That was some very sideways action there from Owen Cassar. And it serves him right because he's now got a half a second penalty right in front there of Christian Samet. 9 minutes into this race. What is still up for grabs? What is the way to kind of go about this some driver, because they've got to really push on forward. Ayrton Birmingham trying to do whatever he can to latch onto this battle once again. You know, I think Jonathan Spiteri, know that he's one of the fastest drivers out on this circuit at the moment. Well, you'll definitely want to try and move on forward. So Samet now just approaching the back there of Owen Kassar. And Kassar will now just have to try and guide that car through the chicane of 8 and 9, but it's not been done the most gracefully. And Samet will now probably find a way from that back straight to get past that number 29 car. But I want to have a look back to the lead battle here between Daniel Malia and Jonathan Spiteri, because I just wonder if those two have kind of managed to find a way here. Spiteri with a 0.5 penalty, so that was kind of good timing from me then. And there goes Owen Kassar. He's about to serve his 0.5 second time penalty, and there goes Samet. He's still playing the defensive role, but Samet's just got so much more speed down that straight. And now Spiteri is back onto the rear of Daniel Malia. These two are going to have to probably start battling again, and the kettle temperature rises. Through Viraj Senna, Rothmans of Malia still just trying to pull a little bit of a gap, but when you're staring down the barrel of one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack at the moment, you're going to be having to really hold up a big concrete wall. But he does go fastest in the first sector, so promising signs already from Daniel Malia. He's in clean air. Spiteri just can't seem to get anything out of this. I think it's in Birmingham. I wonder if he's going to be having his wing mirrors filled with the yellow and black car of Christian Samet, because Samet's just been so strong. Yes, he has kind of been held up in the initial stages of the first kind of maybe 5 minutes of the race. He's managed to find himself back onto form here, down in towards the turn 10 hairpin. Spiteri is going to be looking for any form of advantage he can get on this piece of asphalt. Let's try and bridge that gap there to Daniel Malia, but the gap just opens up that little bit more. Ayrton Birmingham, a little bit of no man's land at the moment, especially for a sprint race that is 20 minutes long, and it's going to be ending in just under 6 minutes time. He's going to be really just hoping and praying that he can stay there. I think he'll be happy with the third. He'll be disappointed that he won't be able to pick up that second place from earlier. So it'll be, at this moment in time, a double third place there for Ayrton Birmingham. Meanwhile, Osbert Zhwedev has been pretty comfortable off camera, but when he goes on camera, unfortunately, he's had a mistake through the chicane. So that was a really bad timing for Osbert Zhwedev. I think that we may need to try and cover him a little bit less, because he seems to crack just that little bit more under pressure when the cameras were on him. I think he may have just saw the live TV screens just turn on him. He went had a little bit of stage fright. we start filming some trees. That's quite poetic after what I was saying. But Spiteri now, he's found a little bit of more pace in this part of the race. Yes, he's now a second back, but never discount out Jonathan Spiteri. There's still maybe potentially a good opportunity for him to maybe go and gnaw something back at this gap here, because that's just sitting at 0.8 of a second. It's starting to get a little bit stale up at the top there, as Jean-Paul Vella now starts to open the gap up for 6th place here. Now let's see if Osbert Zhwedev can do anything, because that gap is now started to come back down here. And that is going to be David Misford, who had a little bit of a tricky race in the first one. And a slowdown penalty here for Ayrton Birmingham. And that won't do too much damage to his kind of hopes. Probably got that through the turns 8 and 9 chicane. It's just such a tricky corner, because it's a complete on the limit kind of set of corners with the dangers of the sausage curve. You head into towards the corner, you got to really hustle the car in, use as much asphalt as you possibly can. Use the curb you got on the inside, but try not, hurt yourself too much that you either go over the curb on the left or you end up in the wall on the right. That's the wall on the left there for us. Birmingham decided to probably pick up a business card from the outside concrete barrier. Concrete barrier is being met there by Jonathan Spiteri. So, they're having a couple of dates around with the Montreal concrete barriers. You don't want to be doing that too much here, because he's actually now dropped half a second off Daniel Malia, because Malia will still be pushing at this rate. There's going to be no kind of telltale signs to say that he's lifting off the gas. Spiteri now in towards the 8 and 9 chicane. Well, some really strong racing so far in this one, but it's been pretty kind of patchy compared to that opening feature race. And I just think it's kind of because we've had some drivers really struggle, like how we had of course Malia now sitting down there in 8th place, but that is kind of the focus at the moment. John Paul Vella, he hasn't quite been kind of the same driver that I'd hoped for in that opening race. He was a very promising, let me change my words around, he was a very promising driver in the first race, but he's just kind of not come off really in the second. So John Paul Vella will take that slow down penalty. He will stay ahead of Oscar Juere, but again, a lot of these drivers I think have kind of fizzled out in terms of their fights now, and it's just about trying to guide that car to the end with 2 minutes left to go of this one. So 2 laps remaining here in Montreal in the third round of the Velocity Esports Racing Asphalt King Series. It's the Autobahn legends, some of the best kind of manufacturing from all sorts. It's been amazing to see kind of the different variety of cars that we have been having. Of course, really interesting to see what Goodwood is going to bring, because of course that's such a different circuit compared to the rest of them. Very, very tight, very, very narrow. We're going to be doing them in the Volkswagen Golf GTIs from 2014 in 2 weeks' time, and then we'll be heading over to the Mercedes-Benz Mercedes-Benz 190 Evo from 1991 for the Sardinia Road Track B layout. So that would be, again, some of the finest in mainly German engineering, and it's been absolutely brilliant to see here as Daniel Malia exits the final chicane here, and we'll head on to the final lap of this race with a 1.9 second advantage there to Jonathan Spiteri, who just couldn't find a response to when he got overtaken there by the Rothmans car. And this will really kind of impress maybe the older generation of racing fans when they remember the Rothmans cars. I believe the Group C cars from the 80s and 90s. How incredible were those? Absolute prototype beasts. But yeah, we really haven't seen much of the Rothmans since maybe the 90s, but it's been really incredible to see. But down in towards the 8 and 9 chicane, again, Spiteri still not quite there. What about Ayrton Birmingham? Is he being kind of pressured here by Christian Samet? No, not really, because Samet is 2 seconds back to Ayrton Birmingham. What about Owen Kassar? Because Owen Kassar has been pretty comfortable. He's got 1.6 seconds there to John Paul Vella, but I think John Paul Vella is running out of time, running out of space on this racetrack to make any form of amends. So exiting the Le Pinglel hairpin and on towards the final chicane. It has been a real fighter's race here for all of them, but above all, Daniel Malia. He'll head in towards the final chicane. Do not mess it up. Do not mess it up. He has not messed it up. Round the final corner, Daniel Malia takes the sprint race here in Montreal. Victory for Rothmans. And Jonathan Spiteri, I believe, took the fastest lap on the last lap, a 1:45.250. Strong lap time from him. Is Owen Cassar, has he made a mistake out of the last corner where he's going to be given half a second? I'm pretty sure at the end of this. So John Paul Vella should jump up. There is Osbashweda, but there you go. That should be, we've still got 2 cars left, but that will be it. There is your winner, Daniel Malia. What a fantastic race he has had. He takes the victory ahead of Jonathan Spiteri, Ayrton Birmingham, and Christian Sammers making the top 4. Ilmore or Owen Cassar will make the top 5 with John Paul Vella in P6. Then we'll find David Mitford. A little bit of a rotten result for him. He'll maybe hope for better. Try and come back a little bit stronger when we go to Goodwood. Osbert Wedeb in P8 there with Adrian Zoom, Joel Falzon de Bono, both 1 lap down. And then we didn't get a finish there from Clint Orland. Well, that is pretty much going to be it. What a fantastic race we had, especially in that feature. You know, so much action, so much happening, and then there was so much carnage in the opening moments of the of that sprint race. I think it kind of started to fizzle out. We still had that great battle for the lead. There was podium places on offer. But alas, we have our 2 winners, and that being, of course, Jonathan Spiteri in that feature race, and then we had Daniel Malia in that second. There is the calendar. We've completed the first 3 rounds of the championship, and that should really decipher what we could be seeing next. Then we will head. Before that, we will have our 1-week break, so all our drivers can have their rest. They can maybe sit back on their sofas and watch some movies or whatever. In the meantime, then they'll start their preparation and go on to Goodwood Motor Circuit as the series heads over to the European kind of double leg, where we'll have the Volkswagen Golf GTIs from 2014 and the Mercedes-Benz 190E Evo from 1991 around at Sardinia Road Track, the B layout. Such 2 incredible circuits which could be so decisive. Again, just looking at Goodwood, it is a track that has never really been used in kind of league races on Gran Turismo. Everyone's just using GT3s, Super Formulas or whatever. But here we go different. We go to one of the oldest circuits in the UK, and then we'll head to Sardinia. A big thank you once again to Motors Inc., Intercomp, Monsters Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist. This has been a production brought to you by Velocity Esports Racing. You can follow us on all our social medias, Instagram, X, Kick, Twitch, whatever the gist. My name's been Adam Reed, and we'll see you on the other side when we have our 1-week break, and then we'll see you at the historic Goodwood for round number 4. Take care. Good night.